just a moment, we're going to be starting our services for Jerry, so if at this time you have a cell phone, if you can turn it off or to silent, we would appreciate that.
Welcome, everyone. We're here to share memories and celebrate the life of Jerry Cadden. I'm Ron Robertson, and Shirley and I have been blessed to be next door to Jerry and Phyllis for the last 17 years as their next door neighbors. We built our homes together in 2004, and we knew it was going to be special when Phyllis said right away, we have to put a gate here. And turned out to be a very fortunate thing because through the years, that gate has been the pathway to many good times for a lot of people. Jerry was comfortable and at ease with his life of 83 years. Standing up here and looking out at this crowd, loved ones, dear Phyllis, family, friends, he would just gather here to honor him. He would just look out and he would smile and probably make us all laugh. I'd like to give just a little opening prayer here, if you would. So if you'd please stand. Dear Lord, one of your brightest stars and kindest souls has been called home. We thank you for sharing Jerry's life on earth with all of us. He was a blessing to his family and gave them love, support, and understanding. To his friends throughout his life, he brought joy, knowledge, and true friendship. He was a valued addition in all our lives, and we thank you, God. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Please be seated.
My name is Mike Brenny, friend of the family, and to the family I'm known as Janet's driver, for the airport driver. Janet happens to be Phyllis' sister. She tips very well, though. But I've been asked to do the invocation. So if you would please, would you bow your heads? Pray with me. Dear Lord, we are gathered here today to celebrate the life of Jerry Cadden. We will learn the impact he had in our lives as a husband, father, grandfather, brother, brother-in-law, and friend. We will understand that he was a Christian who wanted to leave this world a better place. We will come to understand today the void that he has left and realize our obligation to fill that void. To do that, we need your help. We ask you to be at our side as we continue on in Jerry's absence. So in a plea for your assistance, please play out loud and in unison, Our Father, art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
My name is Janet Kelly, and I'm Phyllis's little sister. And I think it's safe for me to say that other than Phyllis, I've known Jerry longer than anyone in this room. I don't know how in a few words and in a few minutes we can truly honor a man and talk about his life and what he meant to all of us, but hopefully I can share some of the things about Jerry. I am blessed because I was able to spend the last 24 hours of his life by his bedside. And I'll always cherish those moments. I was only 10 years old when Jerry entered my life, so I've known him a long time because I'm quite a bit older now. He was 16 and Phyllis was just 15. They were just kids, teenagers falling in love. These two teenagers met during their church youth group, and that's where the story begins for those two. Phyllis was a Cracker Jack ping pong player, and I think that was one of the reasons that Jerry was attracted to her, and I'm sure she could beat him quite handily. The romance blossomed and grew from that time on and culminated with their marriage. 61 long, wonderful, blessed years. When they first started dating, I would be so thrilled to see them drive in the driveway and come home. But Jerry was never too excited to see me. I was 10 years old, and I'm sure I was a bratty, nosy, loud kid, and he was not at all in favor of me in the car to greet him. So he'd give me a quarter. And back in those days, a quarter was quite a bit of money. And if I took the quarter, he wanted me to go away and take our dog Tuffy, who was also jumping up on the car and anxious for them to come home. So I would leave happily with my quarter and my dog, and leave those two little lovebirds. I think he wanted to steal a kiss or two. Phyllis also told me that one time when he walked her to the front door that he unscrewed the light bulb on the porch light, which my parents always left, and we had curfews because they were somewhat strict with us, and we did have our limitations. So Jerry unscrewed the light bulb, so again, I think he wanted to steal a goodnight kiss. In those days, in the late 1950s, teenagers would park on country roads, and I don't know if any of you had similar experiences. That's what it was called in those days. So after a date, we'd park on a country road to steal a kiss or two, have a few minutes alone in the dark. Well, back then we called it necking. I don't know what they call it today, but back then it was called necking. But that's what those two were doing one evening on a country road. But when the clock said it was time to go home, now what? The car wouldn't start. So this was before the days of cell phones, obviously. So I don't know how Jerry managed to get to a phone. Phyllis can probably tell us later. He probably walked to some farmhouse, asked if he could go inside, and he called a friend of his, Mr. Durden. Mr. Durden, interestingly enough, was our mother's boss. And how Jerry got such good friends with the Durdens, I'm not real sure, but Phyllis can again share that with you. Interestingly enough, the Durdens that particular evening were playing Pinochle with my mom and dad. So the plot thickens. Somehow, Mr. Durden managed to escape with some kind of a big cock and bull story, I'm sure. Drove out to the country road, I guess Jerry told him where, and jumped the car, got the battery jumped, and let them drive the rest of the way home, and they weren't too awfully late. Jerry had a car, and he would pick Phyllis up every day to go to high school. He lavished her with gifts. The first thing was a Bulova watch. The next gift was a cross on a gold chain. Then his class ring in high school, followed by his fraternity pin, and then an engagement ring. He was bound and determined to marry that girl. He planned the timing of their marriage, encouraging Phyllis to get through college in 3 years instead of 4, and so she did, working summers. And he had it all planned out because he was a year older and ahead of her in school 1 year, and he wanted them to graduate together because there was not going to be a wedding until there was a graduation. So Phyllis obliged and agreed wholeheartedly. During the early college years, Jerry and a friend of his, Wade Houchins, whose daughter are here today, worked at a local radio station called KIRX Kirksville. The owner of the radio station, Mr. Sam Burke, I'm sure, got a lot of gray hair and wrinkles dealing with those two young men because it offered years and years of good stories later at dinner parties. Jerry's professional career was indeed noteworthy. It is included in part with his obituary. It all began with his first job in Gadsden, Alabama, with Republic Steel in 1962. He returned to Rolla, Missouri to earn his master's degree in 1962. And he graduated and moved to Oak Ridge, Tennessee, where he began working for Union Carbide. In 1975, they moved to Westport, Connecticut, while he commuted by train to New York City in the corporate office. His employment with Union Carbide was top secret, and he had, I'm sure, some kind of security clearance. And when someone asked him what he did, he laughingly would say, "I make bombs." And that was about all he would say. Shortly thereafter, he and Phyllis moved to Colorado Springs, Colorado, where he began working for a small company called EMF. Again, another move was in their future. In 1990, Phil and Jerry moved to Murrieta, California, to finish out his career as he built his own consulting and sales company. At the age of 65, he did finally retire in 2004. After retiring, they moved to Saddlebrook, and he played golf and tennis and walked with his good friend, Ron Robertson. They also shared the Wall Street Journal back and forth through the fence, I'm sure. He also did some volunteer work at the Oracle Elementary School and tutored students in math. He enjoyed cooking, following the stock market and his investments, shopping at the Dollar Tree, that was always a big part of it. And he also just delighted in socializing with his friends and his neighbors. Many of you know and have been the recipient of Jerry's love of cooking, as he was jokingly nicknamed Chef Jerome, and I think there was a picture of him in his apron with his name on the apron. I have great memories of visiting Phyllis and Jerry through the years, and he would be making appetizers for us as soon as we opened the bar at 5 o'clock. It was often coupled with some same old jokes that I had heard years and years and over and over. And I would laughingly tell him, "Jerry, you need to get new material." He didn't. When I came to Tucson in June to help the two of them, and Jerry had just been so sick from therapy, we were trying to get him something good to eat, and we would talk about it. One morning, he wanted biscuits and gravy when he started feeling better, and he was known for his good B&G, as he called it. So we put him in his wheelchair and took him to the kitchen, and he was bound and determined to make the biscuits. So he made the biscuits after he gathered everything from the refrigerator and the pantry, and there was Bisquick everywhere, floor, counter, but he did manage to gather them all up, beat them all up, and all I had to do was place them on the baking sheet. Surprisingly, they turned out very good. Well, it was all a success, of course, but the cleanup was extensive. Shortly thereafter, he wanted strawberry shortcake. Not the kind that you buy at the grocery store, but the homemade shortcake. So we went through that all again. And with very little help, but again, a big mess in the kitchen, which we all managed. The kitchen was his favorite domain. I have fond memories of Jerry, and he has been more like a brother to me than a brother-in-law. We've had good times. He tried to kill me one time as I was diving off a diving board in Gatlin, Tennessee, and he pushed me in midair. And he thought he'd killed me as I splashed into the pool. And he did regret that and still remembered it. He was talking about it just a couple of days before he passed away. Jerry didn't know what God had planned for him on this earth. He had trials and tribulations. He was almost totally blind when he finally passed away. But he always found the good in everyone. He always found the humor and joy in things. And I know as we're looking at him today, and he would be thinking the same thing, that he would like all of us to find the joy in living. We don't know how long we'll be here, and we don't know what life holds for us. Jerry didn't either, but he faced it valiantly and with courage. And I know that he would like the same for all of us. We're going to ask some people that are here if they have something that they would like to come up and share. But I wanted to share an email before we do that from Mindy Bullard, who was one of the MU golf coaches, who always stayed with Phyllis and Jerry when the team came to town. She writes, though he has finished walking this world, his presence and the impact he made upon so many others will always remain. One thing is for sure, nothing will take away the incredible life that you had with him, Phyllis. What a ride. Jerry was such a special human being, and without a doubt, one of her favorite people in the whole world. She says, I feel like I was truly blessed to have had the honor of knowing him for the past 15 years, and every time I think about him, it brings a smile to my face. Of course, for now there are tears that accompany that smile, and I know my time to create more memories with him are gone. But the laughter that we shared every spring over pub cheese, crackers, and a cold drink comfort the pain of your loss. Many hugs to Phyllis. I'll be checking on you from time to time. Lots of people have wonderful memories of Jerry, and if there are some of you seated here that have anything that you would like to share or a funny story, we'd certainly love and invite you to come forward and do that at this time.
Thanks for talking. Well, Janet's fortunate that she's had a lifetime of knowing Jerry. A lot of us in the room have only known him here in Saddle. But we still have lots of good memories. Shirley and I could tell you lots of stories, some of which we probably wouldn't. But we did things, we took road trips together, we had a Mediterranean cruise, we had dinner parties, went to rodeos. A lot of things that we did, and they were all always enjoyable. However, the one I want to tell you today is just captures my personal friendship with Jerry. Some time ago, he and I were in the golf cart on our way down to the fitness center to do our normal little fitness center routine. And one of us was telling a story, and we got to the point where we couldn't think of the key word, and it was an important word in the story. It was about where it took place. Now, a lot of you in the room know this. No, I shouldn't say that. Some of you in the room know this, that unfortunately in Saddlebrook, that's not that unusual. We have these Saddlebrook moments. Anyway, we went inside, we did our thing, felt real healthy when we left, got back in the golf cart, and I swear both of us at the same time said, Camp David. Point of the TV story was about the presidential retreat, and we thought of it at the same time. Well, from that point on, anytime in the future we were telling a story, and we got to that same blank moment, we just said, Camp David, Camp David. And then later, one of us would remember what the real word was, and we'd say it, and we'd both laugh. Only thing I can say now is, Jerry, we have one last laugh, and we thank you for all those memories. Thank you a lot. Anybody like to come up?
Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Nice to see everybody here. Jerry and Phyllis have been friends with my deceased husband George and me for many years. Especially we met in Bear Creek, California, and moved together here to Saddlebrook. We played golf, tennis, took golf trips to Minden, Nevada together, and we've always had a fun time and many, many laughs. Jerry was such a wonderful, fun, and thoughtful man, and I'll miss him a lot. After my husband died, 12 years ago, they planted a little tree on the 7th hole, which is where I live, for my husband, and put a plaque. So we had a little champagne party and took our golf carts there. And I asked Jerry if he would please read a poem for my husband during that time. But before I read it, I want to tell you one funny thing. Right the week after George died, here came Jerry in the golf cart, rang the doorbell, and he said, "Beth, I have something for you." I said, "What would that be?" And he said, "I have a disc, and it's called Beth's Budget." And I don't think he knew that I could handle the money after George died. I still am using Beth's Budget, and I think Janet has Beth's Budget too. One fun thing we did together is we went up to Oracle. Janet mentioned it to teach these little kids math, or tutor them in math. And Professor Mastro went with us. He's here, see him in the back. So we had a lot of fun doing that. It really was fun. So anyway, after Jerry was so gracious to agree to read the poem, and we have a picture of him, and I'd like to read it to all of you. It's the Native American Indians. They thought nature was everything, and that everything good was in nature. And so this is the poem that Jerry read for George's service. I give you this one thought to keep. I am with you still, I do not sleep. I am 1,000 winds that blow, I am the diamond glints on snow. I am the sunlight on ripened grain, I am the gentle autumn rain. When you awaken in the morning's hush, I am the swift, unlifting rush of quiet birds in circled flight. I am the soft stars that shine at night. Do not think of me as gone. I am with you still in each new dawn.
If there are no others, I'm going to turn the
Hello, everyone. My name is Jen Rogers. This is my husband, Scott, and
Yeah, Cap David, that's right.
I'm just going to share a couple things about my Uncle Jerry. Just a second. We have a really small family. My mom has one sister, and I have 2 cousins. My dad has 1 sister and 2 cousins. And when I was 6 years old, my parents divorced, and we moved to Colorado Springs at the same time that my Aunt Phyllis and Uncle Jerry moved there. And honestly, and my grandparents moved there too, Esther and Clifford. And that was probably the best decision. I don't know whose idea it was between you guys. You probably conspired to do that, but really, truly the best decision that could have ever been made for our family. So we would go to Aunt Phyllis and Uncle Jerry's house a lot, and he would cook. Aunt Phyllis was working in real estate at that time, so she would come home a lot of times late from showing houses and stuff, and Uncle Jerry would be busy in the kitchen. And as a kid, I would think, good grief, are we ever going to eat? Are we ever gonna eat? And they had opened the bar, and they're having, a good time. And one of the things that I remember the most was Uncle Jerry. They always had peanuts at their house there with their cocktails. And he would reach in and grab a handful of peanuts and shake them like this and put them all in his mouth. And I don't know why that memory is so vivid for me, but every time, and now I love peanuts. I eat a lot of peanuts. Every time I eat peanuts, I think of my Uncle Jerry. And sometimes Scott and I will look at each other and just do the motion. And we both know what we're thinking and who we're thinking about. And he loved to tease anyone. No one was exempt. Even Phyllis, how much he loved her, he teased her relentlessly too. But as a teenager, he never missed the opportunity to point out if you had a zit. Always. Yeah, raise your hand, exactly. Yes, stop, it wasn't just you. So one time, we were over at their house, and he got up real close, and he would say, does that ever get infected? That was his, like my mom said, he said the same joke all the time, right? So we knew exactly, if you had a zit and you went to Uncle Jerry's house, that's what he was going to say. And hear about it relentlessly. And as Aunt Phyllis said, it was so annoying because he never, ever had acne. Perfect skin, so much hair, enviable hair, as my husband would say. And so, finally I said, it doesn't ever get infected, Uncle Jerry. He said, well, I have something for you. And he left and he went into Aunt Phyllis's bathroom, and he came back with this makeup, Merle Norman powder base. He said, put some of this on it. Put some on, he said, your mom has it. She wears the same thing. Shocker, right? They do the same thing. They wear the same thing. They buy the same things. And he told me something about zinc oxide being in it. I forgot to tell you that. Something about zinc oxide, and he knew a thing or two about metals. And something about that helping, I don't even know. But to this day, it really does help. And so, I know those are 2 really stupid things that you just remember, but I just, I think of those things because they're peanuts we eat often, and I put makeup on every day, and I still use that makeup, and I think, yeah, Uncle Jerry, he knew a thing or two. And my mom mentioned how he loved to spoil Aunt Phyllis. can remember, and again, this is so silly, but he loved to shop. Aside from the dollar store and grocery stores, he loved to take her to Chico's. And he would just lavish her and just really treat her so special. Letting her try on clothes, and they'd go a few times a year, and a lot of times when Mom was there. And I can remember, and even I was either newly married or not married, and thinking, that's such a sweet thing. I hope someday I have a husband like that. 61 years, it's something. So this poem that Melinda and Aunt Phyllis asked me to read is called The Dash. I read of a man who stood to speak at a funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on the tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of birth and spoke of the following with tears. But he said what mattered most was the dash between those years. For that dash represents all the time they spent alive on earth, and now only those who loved them know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left that can still be rearranged. To be less quick to anger and show appreciation more and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering that this special dash might only last a little while. So when your eulogy is being read, with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they said about you and how you lived your dash? So as we were talking last night at the house, and the emails, the cards, the phone calls, all of you here that have traveled from many states away, you were all part of Uncle Jerry's dash. And we really, really thank you for coming and honoring him and the family. And I think it's truly a testament to what a great man he was to see everybody here and hear these stories and to see the cards and the outpouring of love from people that Melinda and I were saying, they had lost touch decades ago. How did they even hear? How did they know? Yet took time to reach out, contact someone who knew Phyllis's address, send a card, make a phone call. I think his dash was pretty well spent.
What a great husband, 61 years, what a great dad. Jeff, what a great father-in-law, Scott, what a grandpa. I mean, really, what a great just life sketch, Janet, that you gave. So I've known Jerry for a little over 25 years, and for whatever reason, he always kind of talked to me as a son. Maybe that's just because of Janet and Jen, but he was always so kind and intentional to talk about 4 different things specifically. One was money and investing, make sure I took care of Jen. Secondly was his eyes, the glaucoma. I'm a pediatrician, I'm not an eye doctor, but he thought because I'm an eye doctor, he could ask me anything. I'm not an eye doctor. The third thing was golf. We talked a lot about golf. But the fourth thing, which really lasted the most and made the biggest impression on me, was grilling. So if anyone spent much time with Jerry, he likes to talk about grilling. And I want to share this with you guys especially, because I've got some things to add. He was the first one that bought me a grilling set to make sure that I knew how to take care of my grill and make sure it's clean before you cook food on it. When you're done cooking your food, you have to clean your grill again. So every time I grill, which is a couple times a week, I literally think about Uncle Jerry and have this like smile thinking, okay, would Jerry approve of my grill? And that is, I'm serious. So the timing was impeccable. I had my first grilling mistake this past week. I've got a gas line that goes in my grill and it makes it really easy, so it'll get really hot and I'll keep it really clean. And one night we cooked and I'll heat it up afterwards and get it really hot and clean it away and turn it off. It's great. Well, last week I forgot to turn the grill off. So the next morning I woke up and my grill had heated all night. And when I opened the lid and looked at the grill, I thought, it's perfect. Jerry would be so happy. So if you have any grilling questions, you guys, happy to talk to you about that. So what a time to lose a soul like Jerry. It's he brings so much. I keep hearing the word joy, and it really is true. This world that we're all living in right now is awful. We're full of just strife and tension and arguments, and I think we're all disoriented on what truth is and how do we find peace in a culture that is just breaking down around us, and we lose a parent like Jerry, and it just adds sorrow to the world as we know it. It's a struggle. So I want to share a verse from Zephaniah that I think might speak into a little bit of hope. It's Zephaniah 3:17, and it says, "The Lord your God is in your midst, a mighty one who will save. He will rejoice over you with gladness. He will quiet you by his love. He will exult over you with loud singing." I think that's good because God is in our midst. He's available. He's not far off. He's not at a distance. He's not angry with us. Zephaniah talks about he wants to quiet us with how he wants to love us. He's accessible. And keeping our eyes on who God is and leaning on one another and our family and finding the strength that we have and the courage to kind of keep our eye on this crazy storm, I think we can find peace. So, Jerry always seemed to bring joy, and I always kind of had peace around him. So I think it's something that we can share with one another when we think about our memory of Uncle Jerry. Thanks.
On behalf of Phyllis and the Cadden family, we'd like to thank you all for showing your love and support today. Phyllis has some light refreshments in the room next door, so if you would like to continue sharing memories of Jerry